Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of fascinating material here that you shared, and we're diving into a world where, well, silicon meets asphalt at some pretty mind-bending speeds.
That's right. We're looking at this incredible potential intersection, artificial intelligence, high stakes motor racing, and what all that might mean for the future of cars. Autonomous ones, but maybe others too.
And the really big question that just jumps out from, well, everything you said is this. Could a race car, like completely autonomous, no driver,
Mm.
maybe guided by something like Grok, could it actually compete head-to-head?
And win.
Yeah, and actually win against the best humans in, say, Formula One. It seems kind of wild. So we're going to unpack these sources you provided, try and pull out the most important bits, the surprising facts,
Yeah.
and sort of figure out what this potential future could look like.
And actually, the material gives us a perfect starting point, a historical marker, really. Think back to May 1997.
Ah,
That moment when IBM's supercomputer, Deep Blue, faced off against Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion at the time.
right. The chess match everyone was talking about. Kasparov had actually beaten Deep Blue just the year before, hadn't he? Pretty comfortably, like 4-2.
He did, but then IBM came back just 12 months later with the upgraded version, Deeper Blue.
And the result, completely flipped.
Completely. Kasparov lost 3.5 to 2.5, standard tournament rules. And it was proof, really, as one of the sources put it, that raw calculation, pure processing power, could beat even the most skilled human preparation.
It sort of redrew the boundaries of impossible, didn't it? At least in a mental game like chess.
Exactly.
And that moment, it really sets the stage for what we're talking about today, because the question now feels like, well, can that boundary be redrawn again, but this time on a physical racetrack?
Can a car with no driver, guided purely by AI, actually challenge for a win in something like Formula One?
Yeah, and specifically, the sources mention Elon Musk's Grok, this open-sourced AI model. Could that be the brain, in the system that takes on professional drivers at over 300 kilometers an hour?
Well, what's fascinating and what the sources connect is Grok specifically. We know Grok 1 was released open source earlier this year,
Right.
and there's confirmation apparently that every Tesla will eventually get an in-cabin Grok assistant.
Okay, but Musk has hinted it's like much more than just handling voice commands, hasn't he? Talking about reasoning layers,
Yeah.
software that can think ahead.
Yes, suggesting it could sort of supervise future autonomy stacks, the whole system that lets the car drive itself.
So the idea is
Yeah.
Tesla already has this massive amount of data from its full self-driving beta programs.
Huge amount.
And if you layer Grok's language and reasoning on top of that,
Yeah.
could it give the car a much higher level kind of planner, an orchestrator, maybe, one that understands really complex situations?
That seems to be the potential, yeah. Like an orchestrator that could maybe understand race strategy,
Uh-huh.
maybe even talk to simulated pit wall AIs, adapt to changing weather or rule changes using natural language, almost like a human strategist thinks.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty far out there. But the material suggests it could be possible.
It could, but, and this is the huge challenge that's highlighted, can that kind of high-level thinking translate into the, split microsecond decisions you need when you're dealing with the brutal, unpredictable physics of F1 racing right at the limit?
Okay, right. Let's dig into that physics challenge, but we're not exactly starting from scratch here, are we?
Yeah.
Autonomous racing is already happening to some extent.
It is, yeah. Robber Race, they spent about a decade developing driverless electric race cars.
I remember seeing some videos of those.
And just this year, Abu Dhabi's A2RL series, they actually held their first race event on the Yas Marina F1 circuit with autonomous cars.
Wow, on the actual F1 track.
Yeah.
And they finished the race. That feels like a big step.
It's definitely significant, but, the articles also note that the qualifying laps, they still showed some pretty raw prototype behaviors, lockups under braking, erratic lines through corners, even a few bumps into the wall. Not quite smooth sailing yet.
So they can go fast, but they're not exactly smooth or consistent yet.
Exactly. They can hit high speeds, sure, but lap times are still several seconds slower than even, like, junior formula cars with human drivers.
Okay.
So to make that leap, to genuinely compete with, let alone beat, someone like Max Verstappen,
Oh.
well, the analysis you provided says there needs to be massive progress on basically 4 key fronts.
4 big hurdles, and the first one sounds almost impossible. Ultra low latency perception at those speeds. in turbulent air.
Yeah, imagine needing to see and react to a wheel-to-wheel battle, not just as it's happening, but fractions of a second before it develops, in the chaotic, dirty air behind another car.
That's hard to even conceptualize. Okay, what's the second one?
They call it game-theoretic racecraft, which
Yeah.
sounds complex, but
It's not just driving the fastest line around the track.
no, not at all. It's the strategic interaction, knowing when to fake a move to trick an opponent, how to defend your position aggressively, but also, crucially, knowing when to back out of a fight to avoid a massive crash.
So it's like playing high-speed chess, but with multiple cars and physical consequences.
Essentially, yeah, against your opponent's likely intentions. Very complex.
Okay, third.
Adaptive strategy. Now, electric cars might not worry about fuel load in the same way as current F1 cars,
Right.
but they still need really sophisticated energy management, predicting tire wear accurately, knowing how much grip is left, and being able to react instantly to unexpected stuff.
Like safety cars popping out or maybe a rival pitting unexpectedly.
Exactly, seizing those tiny strategic windows.
And the last one, the fourth,
Robotic pit stops.
replicating those incredible sub-2-second tire changes human crews do.
But with robots, no humans anywhere near the car in that danger zone. That means incredibly precise, incredibly fast industrial robotics, but adapted for the slightly chaotic environment of a live pit lane.
Okay, so those are four huge technical mountains to climb. Perception, racecraft, strategy, and pit stops. Where does Grok, the AI strategist, fit into those specific, very physical areas?
Well, the materials suggest Grok's language engine could be a really big asset for the game theory and the adaptive strategy parts.
Oh, so?
It could potentially process just enormous amounts of telemetry, data speed, temperatures, grip levels, everything, and translate it into strategic narratives, like simple instructions based on complex data.
Like telling the system, box this lap tires are overheating and we can undercut car 7. Something like that.
Exactly. Providing that strategic why to the car's control systems.
Yeah.
But, and the sources are pretty clear on this, for the super fast perception and the robotic pit stops, the heavy lifting still comes down to specialized hardware.
Okay, so not just software. Things like
Specialized vision chips, cameras that process images unbelievably fast. High-speed control loop systems making tiny steering or brake adjustments hundreds, maybe thousands of times a second. And of course, those advanced robots for the pits. Grok might direct, but the hardware has to execute.
Right. And, beyond all the engineering, there's this massive non-technical challenge that was highlighted too, the rule book.
Oh yeah, huge. Even if the tech worked perfectly tomorrow, the FIA, Formula One's governing body, they'd basically have to rewrite huge chunks of the regulations.
You're talking rules for cars that don't even have cockpits. How do you handle remote oversight? Or maybe zero human oversight during a race? What about liability if there's a crash involving an AI car?
And maybe the biggest one for the sports owners. How do you keep it entertaining? How do you maintain that spectacle value for the fans if you lose the human driver drama?
That's a tough one. How do you replace that?
It's a really good question. Yet the material also points out that motorsport history kind of follows a pattern, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, things that racing bans or treats with skepticism initially often end up being adopted later on.
Like paddle shift gearboxes, people hated those at first.
Exactly. Or active suspension back in the day. Even the complex hybrid power units that are absolutely central to F1 now. They were all radical, controversial ideas once.
That's a fair point. So if we sort of follow that historical thread, like the sources suggest, let's see. Computers beat chess in 97.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Nazo showed off its high-speed autonomous concept car, the RoboCar, around 2017.
Right.
And Grok is supposedly being integrated into production Teslas starting around now, 2025.
So could we potentially see a Grok-enabled autonomous Tesla racer, maybe playfully called Deep Grip, like one source speculated, actually entering some kind of F1-style autonomous racing series, maybe around, 2028, 2030?
It's a wild thought experiment, isn't it? If it only took, 12 months for the Kasparov versus Deep Blue match to flip from human advantage to machine win in chess?
How long for racing?
Yeah, how long before lap times potentially flip? Could it be just 5 years? 10? Maybe longer.
Which brings us to, the core question, really. Why? Why does this potential future, this whole possibility even matter? Is it just a tech demo?
According to the sources, no. Far from it. Autonomous Grand Prix machines, if they happen, could be much more than just a curiosity. There are some pretty significant potential upsides mentioned.
Safety is obviously a massive one, right? Taking the driver out of the equation in those incredibly high G crashes. That's profound.
Definitely. And then there's the innovation loop. Racing has always been this extreme laboratory, hasn't it?
Pushing technology for road cars.
Exactly. From safety stuff like crumple zones, disc brakes, right up to the hybrid systems we have in cars today. This could push autonomous tech for everyday driving in ways we probably can't even predict right now.
And sustainability, too. You could showcase high-performance electric powertrains, maybe with super fast charging, or even battery swaps in the pit lane, pushing that zero-emission tech under extreme stress.
And paradoxically, maybe. The sources suggest that having a top-tier driverless racing series might actually end up reinforcing human-driven F1.
How so? By creating a contrast.
Yeah, exactly. Highlighting what makes human racing special. The driver's creativity, the team's ingenuity, those split-second human judgments, the personalities, the stories, setting that against the pure, maybe cold, logic and capability of AI.
A bit like how chess engines didn't kill human chess.
Precisely. The sources make that exact point. Chess engines made the human chess world arguably more vibrant, more accessible. Players train with them.
Right. It connects right back to that Kasparov moment in 1997.
He really does. When Garry Kasparov lost to Deep Blue, he famously said he felt the machine kind of seek the emotional part out of the game.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yet, as the material points out, chess is more popular than ever now. AI engines are tools that help humans reach totally new levels.
So this raises a question that really stuck with me from reading everything. Let's imagine. Fast forward. Grok does one day guide an autonomous Tesla, let's call it Deep Grip, to victory, maybe at a huge race like Monza. It executes flawless overtakes, manages its energy perfectly, robotic arms swap the tires in under 2 seconds. Will we, watching that, feel a sense of loss, for the missing heroic human driver?
Or will we just marvel at the human ingenuity required to create such an incredibly complex, successful system?
Yeah. Is it loss or is it evolution?
Deep Blue broke a mental speed limit back then.
Oh.
Could a Deep Grip potentially break a physical one on the racetrack?
The checkered flag's out there waiting. The question is, who or maybe what crosses it first in the future?
Something to think about. And based on everything we've unpacked today, where else do you, the listener, see this kind of conversational AI maybe intersecting with other high-stakes areas? Things like commerce or daily mobility or even other sports, in ways maybe we haven't even thought of yet. It feels like a future that's being built right now, piece by piece.